She sat in her car outside an apartment that wasn't hers anymore. Engine off, hands still on the wheel. 3 years since she'd been inside that building, and she still remembered which stair creaked. She wasn't there to knock. She wasn't even sure why she'd driven there at 11 at night. She just knew she'd been staring at a text thread for 40 minutes, typing something and deleting it, typing it again. The message was to him, the one she left, the one she used to complain about to her friends because he was too calm, too consistent, not exciting enough. Here's the thing nobody tells you about the men women leave. Sometimes the ones they walk away from aren't the ones they forget. And the reason why is a lot stranger than she made a mistake. So let's talk about him, the type of man a woman doesn't get over, even when she's the one who ended it, because there are 7 things he did, and most guys watching this are doing the exact opposite without even realizing it. She didn't leave him because he did something wrong. That's the part that used to keep her up at night. There was no cheating, no blow-up, no villain in the story, which almost made it worse because it meant she couldn't blame him for the hole he left. The first thing he did, he listened like he had nowhere else to be. Not the kind of listening where a guy nods and waits for his turn to talk. He'd ask a follow-up question 20 minutes later about something she mentioned in passing, like it actually mattered to him. Most men listen to respond. He listened to understand. And there's a difference a woman feels in her body before she can even name it. Compare that to the guy who checks his phone while she's mid-sentence, the one who says, "That sucks," and changes the subject. She won't complain about it out loud. She'll just quietly start telling him less. And by the time he notices she's gone quiet, it's already over. He just doesn't know it yet. Second thing, he didn't chase her, and he didn't disappear either. This one's confusing, so stay with me. Most men think there are 2 options: be available 24/7 or play it cool and go dark. He did neither. He responded when he said he would. He showed up when he said he would. No games, no anxious over-texting, just a man who was there, consistently, without needing her to prove she wanted him first. And here's the part that messes with people. That kind of steadiness feels boring in the moment. It's not the adrenaline of a guy who runs hot and cold, but adrenaline fades. Security doesn't, which is exactly why women don't miss the exciting ones nearly as much as they miss the steady ones. They just don't figure that out until later. Third, he held boundaries, but never punished her for testing them. If she pushed too far, he'd calmly say what he wasn't okay with. He didn't disappear to teach her a lesson. He didn't blow up either. He just stayed grounded, said the truth, and let her sit with it. Most men do one of 2 things wrong here. They either have no boundaries at all, say yes to everything, slowly disappear as a person, or they weaponize boundaries, turn them into silent treatment and punishment. He did something rarer, boundaries with warmth still attached. And a woman can feel the difference between a man protecting his peace and a man punishing her for existing. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable, because this next one is the one she didn't understand until 2 years after the breakup. Fourth, he made her feel safe to be a mess, not perfect, not composed, actually safe to fall apart in front of him. There was a night she showed up at his door crying over something that, looking back, wasn't even that serious. He didn't try to fix it. He didn't tell her she was overreacting. He just sat on the floor with her and said, "Okay, I'm here. Tell me." Most men panic when a woman's emotional. They either try to solve it in 10 seconds so it stops, or they get uncomfortable and pull away. Neither one makes her feel safe. What makes her feel safe is a man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't need her to have it together to stay in the room. And that's the part that will wreck you if you're not careful, because the men women regret losing weren't the flashiest. They were the ones who stayed in the room. Fifth, he was consistent, not intense. This is where a lot of guys mess it up completely. They confuse chemistry with connection. They think grand gestures and roller coaster emotions mean something real is happening. He wasn't a roller coaster. He texted good morning most days. He remembered small things. He didn't disappear for 4 days and then show up with flowers to make up for it. Quick gut check before we go further. If any of this is hitting a little too close to home, you're not alone. And there's a reason we made this whole channel to break this stuff down. Subscribe if you want the rest of it, because it only gets more uncomfortable from here. Sixth thing he did, and this is the one almost nobody talks about, he kept growing. He read books, he worked on himself without being told to. He wasn't the same man at year 3 that he was at year 1. Compare that to the men who peak the day they get the relationship and then stop trying completely. The ones who mistake "I got the girl" for "I'm done working." She didn't leave because he stopped growing. She left because she was 24 and terrified that steady meant boring, that safe meant settling. She wanted the spark she saw in movies. She didn't realize the spark she was chasing usually burns out the relationship that's supposed to hold it. And here's the seventh thing, the one that explains why 3 years later she was still sitting outside his building at 11 at night. He never needed her to complete him. He had his own life, his own friends, his own goals that existed whether she was in the picture or not. He loved her from a place of wholeness, not a place of emptiness, which meant being with him never felt like carrying him. It felt like walking beside someone who could stand on his own. That's the thing about the men women regret losing. It was never about excitement. It was never about who could sweep her off her feet the hardest. It was about who made her feel like the ground wasn't going to move under her. She never got out of the car that night. She just sat there for a while, then drove home. Because some things you don't get back. You just finally understand them. If you're still early enough to be the man who listens, who stays steady, who holds boundaries with warmth, who doesn't flinch when things get messy, who keeps growing, who stands on his own 2 feet before he ever asks someone to stand beside him, you're not the man she regrets losing. You're the one she never has to lose in the first place. Be that man.